Hello, hello, hello to the second Nick Flanagan Weekly podcast of 2026. That's right, it's me. It's a me, Nicky-O. It is 1 a.m. in gray Toronto as March churns on. The spring month. Some of my favorite people have birthdays in March. If you're one of them, I'm talking about you. And if your birthday's in March and I don't know you, well, you're listening to the podcast, so you're one of my favorite people. I'd like to thank everybody who listened to the Damien episode, which was my first one in a few months. I think since maybe first week of December, I want to say, or even in November. So I took a couple months or more before dropping my chat with Dame Anya. And I just really want to thank you for sticking around. I had a couple people tell me, I listened to the episode. I said, how'd you like it? They said, I liked it. Wow, that's what I like. Next time, don't make me ask. I listened to the most recent episode, loved it. Say that. Or don't, I don't know. Or don't, but you know what I mean? We all got to become a bit more LA. LA means effusive praise. If we don't know you're lying, we don't know you're lying. You know what I'm saying? I think if I taught a school, if I owned a school, if there were charter schools in Canada, I would open a school called l'Encouragement Academy. And I'd be the headmaster and a head teacher, and the only teacher for the first 5 years. And we do grade 1 to 12, and some university, and some postgrad. And so semesters are long. I can't really explain it otherwise, but it's just like, basically, we only have time for one grade per day. There's 12 grades, plus some post-secondary. So we are talking one grade will take about 2 to 3 years, but you're going to want it because I'm teaching you. And l'Encouragement Academy, which is French for the Encouragement Academy, is a place of encouragement. It's a place of there are no mistakes. Only everything you do is right. We're doing math. What's 1 plus 1? Someone puts out their hand. I don't know. I'll be like, correct. That's great. You passed. And on and on and on it goes. Okay. How are you doing? How are you doing? How art thou? I have pep. You may ask why. You're going to hear a crazy noise. That was a Bluetooth speaker being turned off. Anyway, I've got pep because even though it was about midnight, I decided to force this weird boxing I'm doing. It's not that weird. I have these boxing gloves. I bought them at a Salvation Army. They looked brand new. I didn't know why I bought them, but for a little while now, when I can get it together, I strap them on and I punch the air, and I've been trying to get it up to like 30 minutes of air punching as a little cardio. And I did one earlier this week, and then I said, look, I've got to do this. So I did 2 late night ones to close out the week. I did one last night and one tonight. And then I'm going to box tomorrow, the air. And then I'll do it every other day, hopefully. It's all on spec, whatever that means. Why are you boxing, Nick? Thank you for asking, masked listener. Oh, they say that also you got to do your plugs at the beginning because nobody's listening to the end. So please support the podcast by subscribing to it, giving it a 5-star review, and maybe writing a nice review after the 5 stars. And of course, if you want, you can go to my Ko-fi.com/Nick Flanagan. You can check all that out. I don't want to brag, but I updated my Linktree. Look up Linktree flans. I don't know, something like that. Support the pod. Ko-fi.com. Nick Flanagan. Anyway, why is he boxing? You're thinking to yourself, this man has no enemies. He'll not need to defend himself under any circumstances. Well, let me tell you. Who's the greatest enemy? Who is our own worst enemy? The mind. Our own mind is the greatest enemy you'll ever meet. And if you're lucky enough to meet your mind. But, yeah. I think at the top of the Damien episode, and this is, by the way, going to get very heavy right now, so just let's segue into a little bit of sadness. I think I mentioned that some bad stuff had happened, and it's a long-ish story. I don't really know how much of it I want to tell, or can tell, or whatever the word is, but whatever the phrase articulating how I feel about this is, because a big part of what's going on, I just don't even really know what to say. But I had a very good friend of mine die of a pretty brief illness, basically a cancer diagnosis that was sudden and brutally quick. And this was a friend of mine, a lovely friend of mine named Mio, who I'd been friends with for like 28 years, since we were very young. And, you know, it just really sucks. This is a person who I was at the Y2K, celebrated the year 2000 New Year's with Mio. We always were in touch and in the same city. When we were living in the same city, we'd obviously see each other a bunch, and then whenever she'd be in town, because she lived in a few different places, we'd make a plan to meet. Sometimes we hung out in other cities, and we just always had a real blast. And she was always super supportive, and she was definitely, I said this at her service, but it's like she was like kind of a co-writer type, in that we really sort of were able to speak the same language. Our texts were in very specific way of talking, and then in person we had really specific ways of communicating. So, and I think she had that with a lot of her friends, which really speaks to how unique she was. And we really just did have a lot of great times together. And I really don't recommend losing a very close friend. Don't make that happen. Don't manifest that. It's really not nice. So, we love you, Mio. I love you. And luckily, as we exist on Earth, those who we lose become part of us, and in the way that we live for the time that we have after they're gone, I suppose. But she was a mischief maker, as am I, and that was just part of why we had a lot of love for each other. And she was a big supporter of my comedy, big supporter of the music I did, big supporter of this podcast. She was a patron, which is really unnecessary. And she also just would talk to me about listening to episodes. And I remember at the beginning of 2025, when I hadn't done episodes for a while, because I get in these ruts where it's really hard to get back into the swing of doing what it is I like doing. And she suggested I do an episode based on the let them concept, which is, I don't remember the name of the woman who's popularized it. She's not actually the person who created the let them concept. She basically stole it, the woman who's been profiting the most from this vague philosophy. But yeah, Mia was like, talk about what you think about that. So, I just, not having her, just, this is kind of selfish, but just to like bounce things off of, or stay sane, help stay sane, maybe help each other stay sane or insane, justify each other's insanity. That's part of friendship too. It's just a really big change. So, and it's a really big void, and I don't do well with voids. And so I had to take a little time off. And something that I'm really coming to understand is like, if you have a somewhat sensitivity, or if you have a lot of sensitivity to things, or if you have a mind that can kind of go in circles about things, and maybe the term overthinking, I don't know if that's even accurate as to what people call it. Overthinking creates overwhelm, so maybe it is overthinking. But if you overthink stuff, you really need to drown that out. Is what I'm saying. So I am boxing in the middle of the night, and the endorphins are actually working. For once in my life, this swinging at air is what's giving me a feeling of euphoria from exercise, which I've never had before. So that's amazing. And it's also forcing me to focus. Even though you should see I'm swinging like Andrew Tate's last opponent. Very sloppy, wild things. Hopefully I think I could beat Andrew Tate. What do you think, guys? Cobra Tate? Don't look that name up. And I'm even more obsessively putting on weird YouTube videos about things I don't care about, just so that I'm not lying down in bed being like, what's up? Too much. Because the truth is I'm still doing that. It's just, I need respites from it. So, all I can say is I'm glad I had such a good friend. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm mad that she's gone. And not sure I've accepted it yet. But I'm glad that we had a lot of laughs. We went on, she came along for a tour that went on with Brutal Nights where we were in Europe. She met up with us for like a week. I think it was in Scandinavia. I'm trying to remember if she was there for our Norway shows. Because she was a fan of food. And the Scandinavian sausage hot dog situation is really good. And I know she enjoyed that at some point in her life because she lived in a lot of different places. But I hope that we got to eat some Danish sausages with us. And, Mia's friendship also is like making me very thankful for the internet, because there's a lot of internet communication that we had. I know it sounds really stupid. And it's very it kind of like really, this is rocking me. And I know I've talked a lot about losing people, but I don't know, man. Some of the other people who've died they've been like part of a brotherhood or something. People I looked up to. People I was so happy to see. It was always a special thing. And this is obviously Mia was all of that, but she was also someone who I was literally in touch with like every day, every other day for a really long time. So, it's just a weird thing. Life, right? I'm sorry if you're going through anything similar. It's been happening. It happens. That's life. I'm looking at my notes now because, like, I could go on and on about this, and it's not the funniest topic. Although I'm sure there are lots of funny stories, and she was hilarious. It's just that I'm definitely still in the point where, like, ain't nothing funny about this. Anyway, I don't recommend it. I'm thinking if we combine encouragement school with some sort of a drug that makes you impervious to death and physical deterioration, oh my God, the human race will be in great shape. That is my dream. Just a really overcrowded world full of immortal people who have only been encouraged in life. What could be better? If you know what could be better, please email weaklypodcast@gmail.com, WEAKLY podcast@gmail.com. Will I answer? TBD. So, coping. What else has been happening? Of course, this whole tragedy happened right around a period of time where I had jack squat going on. No work to do, not a lot of comedy shows, money thin. But I did have some door jobs. Going to the rock shows for Not Dead Yet. Ushering in people after taking their money, scanning their ticket, selling them some earplugs. My little side hustle. Seeing some bands. Hanging out with the other sweet people who work this job. And I've come to the realization that I'm the kind of person, the scene is my friend. Just the scene. I like being there. I'm at some show where the bands are good. I'm saying welcome, hanging out. People are coming talking to me about the various things that we have to talk about. I'm seeing old friends, making new friends. Some weird venue that has a story behind it. That whole thing is like my buddy. And you working these shows, you know, you really see that some of the same faces sometimes. And you realize these people, there are other people who are relying not even just so much on one individual show, but on the promise of something, an event, a series of events, a little community. This is the sort of Toronto punk and strange music, whatever the Not Dead Yet umbrella is of shows, the people who I help out. I'm talking about the people I see there, and you know, it's, I'm not the only person who relies on this stuff. Like, there can be someone who goes to a show 1 a week, 2 a week. They don't talk to anybody. They don't know anybody. But they're there for the show. And they're soaking the whole thing in and they're loving it. They're not necessarily friends with anyone who's there. But they're friends with the... I think you get it. I hope you get it. Maybe you get it better than me. Not sure. So, if you're feeling down, get out of the house. Which was impossible at times this long-ass winter, which I hated. And I really want to be somewhere warm and live somewhere warm that I suppose also has a scene. It's my big announcement. Just that whole stuff at the beginning. And Mia was like that too back in the day. She was like an indie rock kid. There's a really funny clip of her, the band Sloan, doing like we had Much Music, or our little MTV alternative, had the band Sloan in studio and all these people showing up to watch them, and Mia's like 16 and she's asking them some question. So she loved that stuff too. Who's your best friend? Give me your list of best friends. They don't have to be real people. weaklypodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, the winter just didn't really allow. So I hung on to any times I did manage to have some work that was social and meet up with friends and hang out. And I think people sometimes maybe they just expect you to talk about the sort of grisly details of what happens in a situation like this. And that's honestly the last thing I want to talk about. I don't know. It's really funny. The way that people who are in grief, there's two sides to it. There's how people respond to it, and there's how the grieving person, feels like they're being responded to. Sometimes our perceptions are not accurate. But most of the time, they are. Anyway. Movies happen too. I've seen a few. Didn't really get to much of the Oscar crop. The Oscars happened last week. Sinners took everything. I did see Sinners. Sinners is a good time. I know that there's a bunch of Easter eggs, cultural Easter eggs contained in Sinners that many people will argue to the end of time, raise it to the quality of high art, and I will not argue with you. I will just say, not in my pay grade. I watched it, I had a good time. I thought it was in the same vein as a film, like From Dusk Till Dawn. I thought it had a lot of clever stuff. I loved the setting. It was a smart movie. And Delroy Lindo is a favorite. All the actors were great. Not my favorite genre, if I'll be totally honest, but it was still good. It's not my least favorite. I like a good trapped in a place movie as much as the next person. It's just when I realize that most of the movie is going to be in just that place, I'm I don't know. Although the next movie I'm going to mention that was an Oscar nom for Best Picture. Nom is short for nomination. Would you rather I said nommy? Oscar nom nom nom. The other movie that I did see was similar. It was all in the same location, but it was very purposely like a stage play, which Sinners was not. Anyway, Sinners was good. Best Picture. Why not? Go for it. Michael B. Jordan. Love to see it. Wallace from The Wire. That was where I first saw that guy. Wow. I saw Blue Moon with Ethan Hawke. Directed by Richard Linklater, who you may know from Dazed and Confused. Ethan Hawke plays an old Broadway songwriter, and he's comically short. And the movie takes place mostly in a bar, and he's talking the whole time. Sounds a little bit like this podcast, doesn't it? Just kidding. I'm nowhere near a bar right now. I have no alcohol in the house except for some rubbing alcohol. But I liked Blue Moon. That was the weirdest thing. It's so awkward. So stagey. Ethan Hawke is visibly loving the performance he's doing. But he's also getting a lot of joy from the performance he's doing, which I liked seeing. And Richard Linklater has this quality to his directing where he just kind of lets it. I don't even know if letting it breathe is the right term, but he will keep scenes going and just let you get used to it. And I was finding I was just getting used to a lot of the rhythm and the pace of the movie. So I dug it. Yeah, Blue Moon was all right. Then I did a totally different thing. Used my Criterion privileges for the Criterion channel to like check out some real the goriest stuff you ever saw. First, I went back to a movie that really blew my mind as a child. No pun intended. I mean, I wasn't a child. I was like 17 or 18 when I saw it. Bullet in the Head by John Woo. Bullet in the Head is viewed as John Woo's like serious masterpiece, which is, it's pretty amazing. It's very ambitious. It's got a lot of the same tropes he has, especially in his Chinese movies. John Woo, who you may know if you're a 90s kid like I was like the hot action Hong Kong film director. John Woo, Sui Hark, Ringo Lam, some other guys were in that mix too, who I'm not going to name right now, but they're there. And Bullet in the Head is this movie that touched on the Vietnam War kind of, and Hong Kong stuff, and it's got a lot of smoke in it, a lot of bullets to the head, and it's got a lot of crazy violence, and it's stylish. And I watched it in like 4 parts. But if you like that kind of thing, if you like a John Woo movie, Bullet in the Head has aged pretty well. Just don't watch the dubbed version. Make sure you watch the subtitled version, I would say. The only John Woo movies that I would suggest you watch the dubbed version would probably be really just The Killer. Because The Killer has the dialogue that is sampled in Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links classic album, where it's like, there's a calmness about him. Doesn't look like a killer. It's good. But otherwise, you want that HK movie subtitle action, if you're me, to go pure retro. And that movie's from 1990-something, but then I went way back. I watched this movie called Maniac, which is like a 1980 or 82, like Times Square, grimy serial killer B-movie, directed by this guy William Lustig, who, in reading about William Lustig directed adult films under the name Billy Bag before getting to movies like Maniac and the other movies I'm about to mention. But really, this movie is also a labor of love because the actor, the lead actor, whose name I can't recall right now and I'm not going to look up, he sort of resembles a more guilt-ridden Ron Jeremy or something. The lead actor played a hitman in The Godfather, and he also somehow was on set the most amount of days. Second, he basically made almost as much money as Marlon Brando made in The Godfather, just because for some reason he was working a lot of days. I don't know if he knew how to do production work or something, and Coppola just kept bringing him back, but I think he made a good living from The Godfather. And he helped use that to make this movie Maniac that I believe he wrote it as well, which is about a guy in gritty New York of 1982 going on a killing spree. And yes, he's mostly killing women. But it's not presented... It's presented trashily. It's presented sensationally, maybe. But he is not presented as a winner. He is presented as a total psycho who is pathetic. And the gore in it is really brutal because the effects are done by a really famous special effects guy named Tom Savini. And so if you know Tom Savini, this is some of his best, like, straightforward murder work. So yeah, if you like that kind of thing, I would say, and you just want to have like a shivery kind of time, watch Maniac. So I said, let's keep going. And then I watched Maniac Cop and the sequel, Maniac Cop 2. Maniac Cop. I had no idea the cast was so strong for these two movies. You got Bruce Campbell holding it down in the first one and some other really cool actors. And the second one, you've got Bruce Campbell, you've got Robert Davi, who you'll totally recognize. And then you have Michael Lerner, who's in a lot of Coen Brothers movies, most famously Barton Fink as the executive. The second movie has insane casting, actually. There's all these people in it. It's almost like stunt casting. And both of those movies are written by Larry Cohen, who's a big B-movie writer, director. And those movies, Maniac Cop, are basically about a cop who is going on a rampage in the city, just killing everybody. And I expected something a little different. I don't know. I expected it to be more like Maniac, but it's way sillier. It's not creepy at all. And then they don't have it, so I thought it would be like a living guy cop, and you're just showing this really terrible guy who's a cop. But it's got this almost a supernatural element or something that makes it kind of schlockier. But the second one, much like Maniac, is pretty insane. But yes, and also all three of the movies are set in and filmed in New York, so it's always good to see 80s New York represented on film. So that was a way I passed the time during this winter, was I watched 3 movies with the word Maniac in the title. And I also watched the film Michael Lerner is in that I mentioned, Barton Fink by the Coen Brothers. And Barton Fink has aged well. So don't be afraid to rewatch Barton Fink. Michael Lerner is amazing in it. John Goodman is amazing in it. John Turturro is amazing in it. Everybody is good in it. The Coens they were on full blast at that time. They were so inspired. What are your favorite Coen Brothers movies? Why are they so good? And then they're kind of not so good at some point. I mean, definitely, I think Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was really the beginning of like a new phase for them. They did good movies after Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, but it was the beginning of it being really a little less inspired and more, they were really realizing they could do whatever they wanted. Carte blanche, as they say. Favorite Coen Brothers, off the top of my head. I'm freezing now. I'm like, Fargo is awesome. Awesome. At the time it came out, I loved The Hudsucker Proxy. I'd have to rewatch it to see how it's aged. But Fargo, because I just saw it, I'll pick Barton Fink. Maybe Big Lebowski. But man, I had my mind blown when I saw True Grit. They've really done a great bunch of work, those two. I hope some other people can step up and give us some of that filmic magic that Joel and Ethan gave us. Safdie brothers, I don't know if it's you guys. You're your own thing. I didn't see The Smashing Machine, but I did see, what's it called? Marty Supreme. Those guys really know how to cast vaguely scary, tough old Jewish guys. That's really their sweet spot. Especially, obviously, Josh, I think. or Benny, I don't know, I confuse them, but the one who did Marty Supreme, they should do a movie about, like, that's only about Jewish mobsters. I think that would be good. A lot of stand-up come out these days, too. I don't even know if I mentioned this. My friend Steph Tolov, I watched, like, half of her special, not because I walked out on it, but I just, like, put it on late and watched half of it. It was so funny. I'm so proud of Steph. And then she posts all these clips of her doing stand-up. You know, because, like, I follow her on all these things. Does she follow me back? I don't know. But the clips are all hilarious. Like, I'm really proud of Steph Tolov. But the Chris Fleming special, I watched some of. That's really good. But it was like one of those things where I was watching it and I was like, oh, I'm not going into this at my most open to watching a stand-up special. So I kind of turned it off and I have to go back to it. I think it was great, though. I don't know, who are you liking? Me? Why, thank you. Yes, that's right. I've been teasing it for the last few months, but my album, it's now gone to press. So there's going to be vinyl of my album. I'm going to tell you the title. The title of the album is Mortal Comedy with a K. Mortal Comedy. The cover is painted by this great artist, Brendan Flanagan, no relation. And when I have more information, this will be the first place I drop that information. Mortal Comedy. Tell your friends. Watch movies, listen to cool music, have some fun, love your friends. Well, this has been a treat. Thanks for listening. I haven't really checked how much... I'm worried this isn't recording well. So if you don't hear this, it's because I didn't post it because it didn't record well. But if I do post it, then it recorded fine, and that's why you're hearing this. Okay, one more gripe. I thought I was going to say goodbye, but I got a gripe. As I said, I am dousing myself in content these days. I'm watching the Gen Z people talking about scams. I'm watching the Gen Z people talking about clavicular. These kids are smart. They're nice. They're bouncy. They have a lot of editing. It's fine. I'm not watching TikTok. I'm not really watching Instagram. I'm mostly doing this on YouTube. But then I'm also watching this content where, like, people are talking about... do you know what a lol cow is? Some of you do who are listening. But a lol cow is, like, the kind of person who... and I think I actually talked about this in another episode earlier, but, like the side of 4chan that is not always racist, or the side of even Kiwi farms, believe it or not, that is not always transphobic or horrible. Even if they're not, there's still people grouping together to make fun of someone who is unintentionally funny. That's what a lol cow is. This, back in the day, and even to this day, this is just stuff I keep to myself and my circle of friends, and you keep it off the internet. And you say, watch this, isn't this weird? And then you secretly have a good time with it. You don't rally people you don't know around it. This is how we wound up with that movie, The Disaster Artist. We don't want it. We want a video store that has a sticker on the movie The Room. Check this out. It's insane. That's the most we want. We don't want people all going to watch The Room together in a movie and having some sort of group mockery of it, and then Tommy Wiseau's rich. We don't want it. We don't need it. Anyway, I'm watching these, like, weird YouTubers talking about so-called lol cows just because, like I said, I'm just a sucker at this point for any content. I'm watching a guy named Marky who talks about beef between TikTok people. He's nice. Marky's nice. But then I find content sometimes that I think is what I like, and it's like AI. And I hate that. Especially even if it's a real person doing the narrating. But you can tell it's an AI-assisted script because they're using these boring sentence structures that everybody uses, so it all becomes formulaic. And then the narrator, they're using words the narrator has never said aloud, so he pronounces them wrong. And I have pronounced words wrong before. For years, I pronounced... There's a Flatiron building in Toronto, most likely modeled on the one in New York, much like a lot of the good things in our city. I used to call it Flatiron because there was a chain of tchotchke stores, it's a very small chain, one or two, in that area of the Flatiron building, and it was just called Flatirons. You could buy these really cool Smurf figurines there. Loved Flatirons, but I'd call it Flatirons. But let me tell you, if I was unleashing a video to thousands of people, millions perhaps, I would make sure that I pronounced names of things right. Nobody's doing it. But they're all speaking so confidently. And on Facebook, it's even worse because there's no audio. It's like the writing. And people are writing about cool things. They're writing about John Waters movies or Johnny Thunders from the New York Dolls. But then you read the text of it and it's all written the same. This wasn't that. This was this. This was more than that. This was this. There are these ways of writing that are just this boring AI thing. And when it's being applied to subversive underground culture that 90s cool kids like me liked or like, that is where I draw the line. Okay, it's 1:42. I have been going off, Queen, so I will leave you be. But if you enjoyed the podcast, well, lots of things you can do. First of all, tell a friend. Send it in. Say, here's a guy, he can yap for a long time. Check it out. As I said, you can review, subscribe, blah, blah. You can support it. Patreon monthly, Ko-fi.com/Nick Flanagan if you want to send a little donate. You can buy my album, nickflanagan.bandcamp.com, wrongholemusic.bandcamp.com. New album will be, I think it'll be out on Bandcamp. I'd like to try other ways of doing it, but I don't know yet. Would you buy it on CD? I don't know. And I have live shows. I have a show April 14th at the Transact Living Room that I'm hosting. We're going to have a great lineup. Sarah Bennett, Todd Graham. I think Todd Graham's been on the podcast before a long time ago. Beta Judaki. And you. And I'm also at the Transact April 1st in the Southern Cross Room with my man Marty Tops and Friendly Rich. That'll be a really cool show. April Fool's Day, the first day of Passover. I'll be going from the Seder to the stage. And then on, I think April 10th? On April 13th, actually, I believe. You can see me again at the Transact at 2:30. And then on my birthday, April 19th, 7 p.m., I'll be at Comedy Bar. Whew! That's too many shows. All right, you're great. Talk to you soon. Let's all just stay calm. Love you, Mio. Bye-bye.
Weekly. Nick Flanagan,